Welcome to the P's and Q's podcast by PerfectQuote. For each episode, we're going to share a pint and ask some questions to learn more about the current state of the employee benefits broker market and the future of insurance technology. Join me, Kevin Dawson, as we hear from industry leaders and insurance executives in the PerfectQuote team for great drinks and conversations. Insurance technology. I'm your host, Kevin Dawson, and today is the very first day of the P's and Q's podcast. And I am joined by Justin Sylvester, founder and CEO of PerfectQuote. Justin, welcome to the P's and Q's podcast.
Thanks, Kevin. Glad to be here, man.
Well, before we jump in, I'd like to get people to get to know you a little bit better. So with some rapid fire questions. So I'll ask a question and you just shout out a response. All right?
Sure.
All right. What was your first job?
Like first paying job or first real big boy job after I graduated college? Oh man, I worked for a vet cleaning up all the animal droppings in Louisiana. So yeah, the backroom vet worker.
All right. What's your go-to order at the bar?
A Negroni. That is the
Nice.
only drink of choice. Yeah.
What did you want to be growing up?
A cartoonist. Yeah, I wanted to draw, make my own cartoons and do all the voices in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Podcast or playlist?
Playlists. I actually don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm on a few, but I prefer music over podcasts.
All right. So on your playlist, who are you currently listening to?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a hard question. I'm a musician, so I can't really hone it into like one kind of band, but I'll tell you what, today I've been listening to Smashing Pumpkins actually just put out a new rock opera, and it's awesome. It doesn't sound like anything they've ever done, and it's really cool. But usually reoccurring stuff is going to be like Led Zeppelin, ZZ Top, AC/DC, Van Halen, Metallica, all the fun rock stuff.
Nice. Well, Justin, people want to know, what is the PerfectQuote story? You created this company, so tell us about it.
Yeah, so I was a broker for about 10 years. Broker, producer, consultant, whatever you want to call me. I sold insurance with the group benefits. And I had a client in Houston, Texas. I live in Austin, Texas. So Houston's like 2.5 to 3 hour drive one way, depending on traffic. I had a client in Houston, and they were the largest animal clinic in the country. They had like 600, 700 employees. They're huge. They have multiple locations. And their clinic was crazy. It had like 6 different stories to it. So like I'm talking like bird acupuncture specialists, like all sorts of stuff. It was wild. Anyway, their CEO every year would put me through the ringer on their renewal. And what would happen was I would go down there, I'd have a pre-renewal meeting saying, hey, this is how you're trending. This is what's going on in the market. You know, we should look at alternate options or whatever it is. We're going to, typical broker stuff, kind of priming them for the renewal. We would get our increase because we always get increases. And this client preferred to go to market every single year. And they were a large group, right? 600-700 employees. And we kept saying, hey, look, you don't really want to go every year. You want to work with a carrier for a couple years, get some credibility, et cetera, or else people are going to start declining you in the future, which ended up happening. But they wanted me to go to market every year. And so we would. So I would go have our renewal meeting in person. And then, I drive back, meet with our marketing team, say, this is what we should look at doing. They would go out to market, and they would go to all of these different large group carriers, collect all the quotes. They would send them all the same information, right? In different forms. They collect all the quotes, and then they would hand key the most competitive options into a spread, print it. They would make it to my desk. I'd scratch it all up. We'd redo it, print it again, finally get it to a spot where we thought it was ready. And then it had to be triple peer reviewed by our office, and then printed and bound again. And then I go and drive and have my real renewal meeting. And what would happen was when I would sit down with my customer, the first thing he said to me, he goes, "Hey, dude, these numbers are wrong." He added up. He was a real smart guy. He added up the binder that we put together. It was like nothing adds up. And he closed the binder on the call, on the meeting, and goes, "I can't trust anything that's in here, even though the numbers are what they are. Come back when you have real information. This is a waste of time." So I'm like, "Oh, great. Somebody along the way missed a calculation." So drive back to Austin. So there's another, now I'm on the road for 12 hours total between two trips. Get back, find it, get it done, drive back to Houston, go have a meeting, and the broker, and the whole time our team is manually doing all this work, right? Have the meeting, broker, the client goes, "Hey, I can't absorb this increase. Everything that we talked about prior, out the door. Let's redo everything and look at different options because a 1% increase is unsustainable." I got him a 1.
I would be lucky for a 1%.
Yep. I know exactly. And I kept saying, it's like 1%'s like, it's like negative percent at this point, man. But didn't matter. Went back to the office, went back to market, did it all over again. And again, it's fourth quarter. I've got other customers. Our office has other customers, and our marketing team, their whole job is just to slam out quotes. That's what they're doing. And they were frustrated that they don't have the resources or tools available to move fast. They were doing everything physically. And then finally, we put together some, third round of options, drive back down to Austin. And the whole time we're like, dude, we got to make decisions. We got to get ID cards out. We got to get enrollment set up. We got stuff to do. And you're holding everything up. Finally get there, and the CEO was like, "Hey, look, this is good. I'm glad this is kind of what we're looking at, but I have a question." He goes, "I want to know how much money it's going to cost us if we move from a $50 office visit copay to a $45 office visit copay." Because that wasn't in the spreads or the binder and all that stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God." And so I did some quick math. I was like, it's probably going to cost you $10,000. And I just shot out a number because I didn't have any of the other plans available because it's all underwritten. And he's like, "Okay, I want to look at every $10,000 option we have. So let's go back to the drawing. I'm sorry, every $45 copay option we have. So let's go back to the drawing board." And I was like, I can't do this. It's like, dude, we got to make decisions. There could be hundreds of choices for you to choose from. And I'm not about to have my team spreadsheet 100 different plans for you to just renew as is. And I was like, there's got to be a way to analyze all this data without people doing the work, but also give me, at the time, I wanted an app because that's when iPads and iPods and iPhones were kind of, just hitting mainstream. But I wanted a way to present live dynamically to my customer. So that way I didn't have to keep driving back and forth to my team. I could say, "Cool, you want to look at a $45 copay plan? I'll hop on our site, drill down, use some sliders, and be like, boom, here are your options. This is how they differ over current." And you'll see that the increase is, you cannot sustain that increase. And let's just get this plan and move on. But it didn't exist. And so originally PerfectQuote was formed out of my own frustration of not being able to present the data to the customer in a live setting. I was sick and tired of my team having to do all this work. They weren't doing a good job at it. It's not their fault. But it was filled with errors. It was taking forever. And honestly, it's just an archaic way of selling stuff. What I'm going to do all this hard work. It took our office 90 hours worth of work to do this one customer. And all of it could have been prevented by using what now PerfectQuote is. So originally it was, how do we present data live on the fly to a customer with 100% of the information available? So that way, when they do want to see options or whatever, we can say, here you go. This is how they differ. No back office BS getting in the way. That didn't happen. And so that was what we wanted to do. And that was the beginning of PerfectQuote. It was like presentation mode. How do we show insurance to a modern purchasing experience? What we didn't realize, what was going to be such a big deal, we were like, how do we, okay, cool. Cool. It's a website. It's an iPad. It's an app. It's a whatever. How do we get 100% of the data into the system without keying it in? That's what we're like, oh, that's going to be hard because people can't key stuff in anyway. They're doing a poor job keying in 1% of the data. How are they going to do 100? So what we did was we developed optical character recognition software, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically like the ability to scan a document and extract the words or the characters right off the file and keep it digital. We developed that specific to group benefits. So that way, when a broker goes to MetLife or Guardian or United or Blue or whoever, medical, dental, whatever it is, you can take their proposal and our system scans it, extracts the information off of it, but now it's in our app. And now you can manipulate it. Now you can present it, see the differences rapidly, and you don't got to key anything in along the way. And so that was really the genesis of what PerfectQuote started off to be, was how do you take underwritten data from a file and keep it digital and then keep it sellable, presentable, and then speed up the sales cycle.
Nice. So, when you developed all this, obviously there wasn't anything in the marketplace like PerfectQuote. And now, with some of the iterations and changes that PerfectQuote has gone through to be that plus, a quoting tool, and there are other quoting tools on the market, the insurance, sector has really started to embrace technology. And where do you see that really benefiting, brokers when they invest into technology? Because I think a lot of brokers are fearful because of the price tag.
I would disagree. I don't think that they're fearful of the price tag. They're fearful because of the unknown. When we first launched PerfectQuote, we didn't have competitors. ACA, small group rating, a lot of the quoting tools out there, that's kind of like pretty much all that they do. They were just starting to come out. We actually still don't have competitors on how we intake data off of files. We're still the only ones that do this. But when we first started doing this, brokers had never seen anything like this. They were like, wait, how did you take information off of my proposal and put it into a spreadsheet like that? Like, how do I know your system did that? Like, I'm doing it for you right now. Like, look, I'll show you how it works. This is what we did. We created it. And so a lot of them, it was kind of like witchcraft. And when we first started doing demos, people would drop F-bombs and stuff. They're like, what the F was that? How did you do that? And it was really cool and fun. But a lot of them in the very beginning, it's either we had like early adopters that are like, hell yeah, technology, we love this, we're going to do this. Or we had the majority of insurance industry agents being like, wait, we're going to have a computer do all of the analysis and all this data work for us, and we're not going to have a person do this? How do I know the computer is right over the person that I've trained to do this? And so it's taken a little bit of time, I'd say, over the last few years for agents to get used to technology kind of taking over. And then now with just benefit quoting technology, there's a few of us out there. We all do things a little bit differently, but now it's becoming a little bit more mainstream. And so that the tech version is significantly less. And then from a price standpoint, there's a huge ROI on using quoting systems, especially PerfectQuote. So yeah, does that answer your question?
I think it does. I think, looking at, there was an article I read recently that talked about, specifically in the benefit broker space, that 70% of a broker's time is not spent selling. It's doing everything you just talked about, putting together spreadsheets and running proposals and going to meetings. And that's not the role of a broker. The broker's supposed to be out there selling. And so they're looking at technology. In the same report said 54% of brokers that they surveyed were looking to invest into technology to find some of those efficiencies, whether it's to speed up what they're doing or replace people, as insurance is an old industry. In terms of the age of brokers and teams, and you've got like this newer, younger brokers coming into insurance, and there's this kind of age gap. So what do you do to deal with this employee change?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because most brokers have, their job is to grow their book of business, right? That's why you have account managers and specialists and marketing teams and customer service and all that stuff. But the brokers are the ones that get stuck in performing non-revenue generating activities. And it really kind of contradicts their workflow. And so like, as you said, like, right, to spend 70% of your time doing non-revenue generating. I mean, if I had a sales rep that spent 70% of their time doing non-sales stuff, we would have a problem. And it goes the same way for brokers, in my opinion. And but they haven't really had a solution before to help them out either. So, like when we put PerfectQuote into a national agency, they went from they claimed to spend 9 hours, 10 hours per client doing spreadsheeting work, but the industry average is double or triple that. But when they started working with us, we dropped it down to 8 minutes. And so we're going from hours to minutes, and then you multiply that times thousands and thousands of groups. It's a huge time. Like I believe, like when we did a time study, they got back a few years worth of time in just one renewal season with us. And then when you add that with the wages that they're spending and all this activity that they're just kind of wasting doing, it adds up pretty quickly. And a lot of what we're seeing is a lot of other agencies, when they have turnover, especially in Q4, it cripples them because okay, cool, you lost an employee. We get it. It happens to everybody, but you still have a whole client roster that you have to manage, renew, enroll, and that workflow just goes to the next team member, and then they're overworked, they're burning out. And what we've seen is with technology, especially with PerfectQuote, with some of our customers, they had turnover in Q4, they didn't miss a beat. They were able to weather the storm because they were already super efficient and everything was going smoothly. And then now when they have new employees, they're training them on PerfectQuote, or some of them aren't even leveraging hiring new employees because their team is more efficient using PerfectQuote than hiring it. You're going to hire a college kid or somebody else, and then you're going to teach them to do Excel work where they're just going to key in quotes and proposals and edits all day long. That is not a fun job. And it's hard to retain that. So a lot of the new employees are being trained. And what we're seeing is a lot of other agencies, especially older agencies, they're leveraging PerfectQuote to become more profitable and have less headcount, more profitable, more efficient, because independent agencies aren't going to be independent forever, right? So they want to make themselves look nice, so that way the big boys at the big companies can come in and acquire them for high multiples. So we kind of help them out on all fronts.
Very cool. Well, last question. How can people find out more information about PerfectQuote?
Good question. That's easy. You go to perfectquote.io to learn more. You can also email sales@perfectquote.io, and our sales team will reach out to schedule a demo. But there's some really cool stuff on our site. There's videos showing how the system works. There's a calculate savings feature on our site, so you can put in some numbers as to how your agency is performing today and see some ROI projections on what it would look like if you use PerfectQuote. A lot of easy ways to get a hold of us, but www.perfectquote.io is the easiest way to find us.
Well, Justin, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing the PerfectQuote story.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, thanks for joining us on the P's and Q's podcast by PerfectQuote. Join us next time for another pint and questions as we explore more of the benefit broker market and the future of insurance.